Hi, my name is LaQuincey Reed. I'm here with Marissa Raglin. She was a past artist in residence here at the Skirvin Hilton Hotel. So Marissa, just go ahead and give a brief introduction about yourself.
Sure. So I am a visual artist working mostly in collage and mixed media. I currently work with the Oklahoma Arts Council as their curator of Capitol exhibitions. I have a studio space in the historic Paseo Arts district. I share that with 3 other talented women. It's called Studio 6. And so you can find me there most first Fridays. But I create work that is whimsical, ethereal, typically works on paper, or collage works on panel with resin.
Okay. So a collage artist, I was an art teacher, so I taught my students collage, and I didn't have a whole lot of students gravitate towards that. What caused you to figure out, this is the medium that, connects me the most, and have you gravitate towards that more so than anything else?
Yeah, so in my undergrad studies, I was a painter.
Mm-hmm.
That was like all of my electives. I wanted to soak up and do acrylic and oil painting. But then once I graduated, I found that I was no longer excited to approach with that media because there wasn't an assignment before me. And so I actually purchased a book called The Creative Block by Danielle Crissa. She's also known as the Jealous Curator. She has a great blog. And it just encouraged me to pick up a new media just for the sake of creating. And so I picked up an X-Acto knife, and I really liked how detail-oriented I could be and really get into the details. And then how quickly I could move through the composition. What I didn't really like in painting was how I would get stuck in the messy middle and would then pick up a new work and start from the beginning and work through. But with collage, I could navigate so quickly through the composition and rearranging to try to convey the story I wanted. So I guess that answers your question, is just the pace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one question that I've always wanted to know is, like, how do you handle the archivalness of collage? Because you have I'm assuming that you source a lot of your imagery from magazines and books and things like that, and a lot of those materials aren't very archival. So how do you balance that? How do you handle that, or is it you even consider that?
Yeah, well, a lot of times when I'm working, it's all about, collage artists like to talk about the glue that they use, and so I use a matte medium, which when applied, is archival, dries clear. I can use that over time, but I love the idea of working with collage because a lot of times you can only find that image once. Like, the odds of finding that same vintage publication in its same state or not, destroyed is challenging. And so anytime I naturally can find repetition, I love to bring that into my work, where if I find the same image multiple times through multiple publications. But I sort of like that they are unique and vintage, and this is the one time I get to use it. So that, coupled with, the acidity of the work as it crumbles, I'm able to work delicately with my X-Acto knife to then, again, create that story.
Okay. So talking specifically about your work in general, so I read your artist statement, and correct me if I'm wrong, a lot of your work deals with I guess the nostalgia and I guess the stereotypes of womanhood and things like that. So one thing that I did also notice in your work, and I don't know if this is true, you can correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
But looking through your artwork, a lot of it seems almost like a journal, and a dream journal of sorts, because we have these images of like a crocodile or an alligator next to a woman holding the baby or something like that, and like these kind of surreal imagery. But then we also have things that are very nostalgic, things that, like, I guess, core memories, things like from the Pixar movie, but like a mother and a child walking together. And so do you feel like there's a certain aspect of your work that is a little bit recalling things and combining those with dreams and imagery and things like that, or am I mischaracterizing it completely?
No, you did a great job. I would definitely identify my work as such. I really like to personify an individual, someone in my life, my grandfather, my mother, and find imagery that I feel like speaks powerfully to them and their character. And so, for instance, the alligator with the nurturing mother holding the child, that's my mother, and her defensiveness of raising us and protecting us. And also there's a flower in that composition, and her beauty and her elegance, and then just the nurturing quality of nurturing all three of us kids growing up. And so anytime I can personify, and that could be from the most wild of descriptions or images, I love to pull from that, because it's all a play for me with the most outlandish, with the nice color balance. So developing that composition to be true to the story I want to tell.
And also in your work, I see that you're, I guess in your more recent work, you're incorporating painted elements. Is that correct? Is that kind of a new development, or is this something that you've done a whole lot of, and how's that process kind of come
through
about?
COVID in 2020, I started block printing, and so I've been incorporating a lot more block printing into my work most recently. And then I did a little stint, a few years ago, where I was incorporating gouache into it. So I think I've always been interested in a little bit of mixed media with the collage, that letting it enhance the story more so. Yeah.
So let's shift gears and talk about your time here. So how was it for you? I talked to Jennifer Woods. Her time got cut short because of COVID.
Right.
And you had the full year, I'm assuming, right?
Yes.
How was your time here for you?
Oh, I loved it. I loved having this much space. I mean, just the square footage alone was something I was not used to prior to that. And it just brought in people that were not familiar with the media, that were not familiar with me, and the conversations that I had. I would have loved foot traffic to be even more so than it was, but what I did have with the different events and I guess parties or workshops that I hosted, I was really happy with the turnout. The opening receptions that the Skirvin provided were incredible, and the social media efforts from the Paseo were so great. So it was a great platform and sort of a springboard for me, that I don't think had I had this experience, then I would not have been able to then have a space in the Paseo above Holy Rollers, and then move across the street to where I'm at now at Studio 6. So I don't think those doors would have opened had I not put myself out there with this opportunity.
So speaking of the Skirvin, you do have your piece up here that's donated, and I'd love to hear you talk about it. So let's go ahead and shut everything down here and then go up there and talk about it. Sound good?
Okay, sounds good.
All right, good deal. We're here with Marissa, and here's your piece entitled Skirvin.
Yep.
So go ahead and talk to us a little bit about your piece that you donated.
Yeah, so I was able to find some vintage postcards of the Skirvin over the years, prior to renovations, just when it first opened and the excitement. And so I really wanted to create a layered effect that had the Skirvin composition over top of one another. And when looking at what it could maybe rest, I found this woman that sort of felt like she was lost in a dream world. And so I just loved that was mounting on her, or she was lost in thought. So that's a little bit more about the work. And then I ended up making prints of this one as well. And it was something as a commemorative time as my time as artist in residence that ended up being really successful.
So how did you even find postcards? Were you dumpster diving, antique shopping? How did you find them?
So there is a publication. There's actually 3 volumes, and it's like Oklahoma City and postcards. And whenever I found those, right after I found out that I got the residency, no wait, it was before. I was like trying to think of my proposal of, what is that interactive piece of what people can do with me in the studio, and that was create custom collage postcards. And I found these Oklahoma City Through the Years postcards, volumes 1, 2, and 3. And so in my presentation, I actually passed out those books to show that this is what we could make copies of and cut and paste for your postcards. And that ended up, I think, being a critical piece having those examples too, along with those books that people found really interesting. So yeah, I just found it. I got lucky at a thrift store.
Yeah.
I guess they're like really expensive on Amazon, but I found a good deal at that thrift store. $20.
So overall, this hotel kind of fits with your overall, I guess, aesthetic. I do kind of get that kind of vintage vibe from a lot of your artwork. Did this kind of experience gel well with what you were already doing and what you already kind of like and everything?
That's a great way to put it. It really did. It absolutely gelled. I was able to be inspired by my surroundings, the downtown urban feel, the history of this hotel, the architecture. So just by walking around or just like having a seat at the red piano, I like to incorporate that in my work. So, yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about it?
I don't think so. I think we covered it.
Okay. Yeah. So would you like to share your social media, your website, and all that stuff?
Okay, yeah. You can find my work at mraglinart.com. You can follow me on social media at Marissa Bozrag, B-O-Z-R-A-G, and also on Facebook at Marissa Raglin Art.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Marissa. I know you have to get back to work, but I really appreciate you stopping by and visiting with me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool.